Great day, everyone. My name is Vivian Bell, and I am a board certified counselor and mental health coach. I am also the host of She Who Believes the podcast, which will soon be heard here on Wisdom. And it is currently being heard, or you can listen to it on Anchor, Audible, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any of your other favorite music platforms. So I plan to be here with you guys every Thursday at 11. I am a little late starting today because if you can hear my background, I hope you can't. There is a major thunderstorm happening, and I am a week away from the final construction of my home studio. So you guys will hear a little bit of a thunderstorm here in not so sunny Florida today. But I am here to talk to you guys today about the sound of wisdom. And so I plan to answer 4 questions during this talk today. And those questions are, what does wisdom actually sound like? How do you know when you are receiving wise counsel from friends or peers? Are you qualified to give wise counsel? And how to implement the wise counsel that you receive? Now, to answer our first question, I want to first address the definition of wisdom. Now, according to Merriam-Webster.com, it is the ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, good sense, generally accepted belief, accumulated philosophical or scientific learning. Google says that it is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment and findings. Of good judgment and findings. Now, I believe all of these definitions can be true. Because we all gather wisdom from those who have come before us and shared their experiences and findings. I think it's actually wise of us when we reference our past, whether it is past experiences in our nation, past experiences in our family or our bloodlines. We can look at certain things that are generational, and that is how we learn from them. And we can learn what we should and shouldn't do moving forward. We can also receive wisdom from discernment through the Holy Spirit. Our experiences, as I stated, can give us wisdom. Experiences help us to figure out what we should and should not do. It gives us information that we can share with others to help them along their journey. Now, some of you who may, be more into religion or have heard, the Bible preach, you've heard about generational curses and generational blessings. So I believe that we can get wisdom again from just learning from those that have come before us. That will we can look and say, hey, these things has been taking place in every generation before me. But the thing that I really do love about that as well is that we can look at those things and make a decision that even though these things have happened continuously in my bloodline for generations, it doesn't mean that thing has to keep happening in my bloodline. I can literally make a decision to do something different. I can share it. And as I stated in the previous step, our experiences, we can share it for those who are coming after us. For instance, if we have children or nieces and nephews, or even just those that are around us, we can share our life experiences with them and say, hey, this is where I made the mistakes. This is the things that I've learned. Here's the wisdom that I can give to you. Now, as a counselor, I have met very few things in any sessions that I am not able to draw some wisdom from past experiences, whether those experiences were personal experiences or that I got to see them firsthand through counseling or just through life experiences, that I can't use something from my experiences to share with others. So we'll move on to our second question, which is, how do you know when you are receiving wise counsel from friends and peers? Well, this can be tricky for many of us because we often hold our friends and family in high regard, right? So we love them. They've done certain things for us. At times in the past, they may have given us wise counsel. And then we often allow our heart for those people to cause us to accept what they're telling us to be like sound and actual wisdom. When at times, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about generational curses and generational blessings and those kinds of things. Sometimes we take counsel from those that we love or those that we have experiences with as if it is wisdom, when in actuality, it may just be all that they've ever been exposed to. It may be all that they know. So they will share with you, maybe even out of fear. They will share things with you that will be to your detriment in this season of your life or in this current moment of your life. So you have to be able to figure out what is wise. Like, is this really wise? Where are they getting this information from? I have a particular relative, one of my parents. She would always say they all the time. My mom always said, well, they said, and they say this, and they think this, and they think that. And even as a little girl, I said, who is they? Who are they? Who are these people? Because everything they say to you or everything that they have said, it would literally not, be in agreement with my spirit or with the Holy Spirit inside of me. So it was like, who are they? And so I'm always careful when people speak to me about they. I need specifics. My mind is an analytical one. God has given me an analytical mind. And so it's like, who are they? What are their experiences? What place are they speaking from? Because they can be speaking from a place of pain and a place of hurt. For example, as I mentioned before, I'm a biblical counselor and I have my master's in biblical counseling, and I specialize in family and marriage counseling. Well, I always say that God has a sense of humor because he called me to be that after I was divorced. And I remember hearing God say, this is what you're going to do, and saying, okay, well, I'm going to do it, but couldn't we have done this before I got divorced? Well, just because I'm divorced doesn't mean that I have to hate marriage. I don't. I think it's beautiful. I think love is beautiful. I have been blessed to have an experience to watch a 50+ year marriage by my grandparents before they left this earth. That was beautiful. That was one that was loving. That was centered around God and his idea of marriage. And so I chose to take the experience of what I saw and what I was taught and what was placed before me through their actions as what truth is of what marriage should be, not what my experience was in marriage, which was the total opposite. So it goes to, again, discerning what is actually wise counsel and where people are actually drawing their information and their particular wisdom from as they're sharing that with you. So it's really important that we examine things and we don't allow, again, as I stated earlier, our heart or our love for family members to, or even friends or peers, to make us change how we feel or to, should I say, accept unwise counsel. Because sometimes wise counsel will make you change how you feel about a thing. And that's good because we don't all have perfect wisdom. We don't all know every single thing. I have thousands of dollars in student loans that will prove that I'm educated, but that education got me some letters behind my name that will get me into rooms so that I can actually share the gift that God put on the inside of me. That didn't make me wise, that I went to school or wiser than anyone else. It's been my life experiences coupled with that education that has given me the ability to be able to be a wise counselor to others. Personally, for myself, I am a person who I pray and I allow the Holy Spirit to lead me into all truth, so that when others come and they give me their advice or their wisdom, sometimes I seek it, and sometimes people may suggest, hey, I think this is what you should do. I can weigh that by what the Holy Spirit has already revealed to me, because I believe that if anyone's giving me counsel or giving me information, that it should be in alignment with that. Now, if you say, hey, I don't believe in that, or I don't operate in that way, now how do I decide whether something's wise counsel? Well, of course, there are other logical things that I can tell you about, but I can tell you what my experience has been in allowing Holy Spirit to lead me. And I've made some mistakes and I've not always gotten it right, because I'm human also. So we are all body, soul, and spirit. And so then there's that, that human part of you, that part of you that still has emotions, that part of you that can still get frustrated. Just because I'm a counselor doesn't mean that I don't get agitated, frustrated, that I sometimes, if you even run up on my grown children or you mistreat them, that mama is not going to come out first. It does. And anyone who has children, whether you birthed them or adopted, mothers or fathers that are true parents, you know what that mother bear thing is like. Like, you will fight a real bear about your children, right? So I'm, again, there's just the different experiences that I've had that can bring me into that place. So if you, again, aren't led by the Holy Spirit and you're led in other ways, you can compare. Again, one good way to look at it is, where are they drawing their wisdom from? Where are they getting their knowledge from? That's why you should get to know people that you allow to speak over you. I don't agree with making a phone call to someone and never knowing them and letting them tell me everything about my life. Because again, I don't know anything about you and I don't know where you're getting your wisdom from. So anyways, I think I might have answered more than one question. And as I said at the start of the talk, we were going to address what wisdom actually sounds like by answering 4 questions. And I'm going to repeat those now for those who are just recently joining into this talk. Those questions are: what does wisdom actually sound like? And we addressed that. How do you know when you are receiving wise counsel from friends? And we talked about how we have to find out where they are getting their information and wisdom from, because people can mislead you based on their own past experiences, their own beliefs, their own hurts. And sometimes this can be intentional. And then at other times, again, it's just their view and experience, and it's limited, and they can only share with you what they know, what they believe, and even what they fear. And so we have to definitely be careful of people sharing things when they're sharing it because they fear something. I could have a fear of, I have yet to learn to swim, and I didn't say never, but I said have yet. I'm going to learn to swim in my 40s, right? But I never made my children afraid to learn to swim or afraid or fearful of water. I made them knowledgeable of, this is what can happen if you are not educated in this area. If you don't have the skill to swim, then you should do these things and you shouldn't do those things. My son, who is my youngest child, he taught himself to swim. Actually, he had gone on a trip with someone, and he had an experience that did not make him feel very comfortable. And so he actually spoke to someone about swimming, asked them to go with him and be in the water with him while he implemented the things that they had spoken to him about. And so he practiced. And that person was an expert swimmer. They actually did a lot of water sports things. So it was safe for him to do that. So again, we can even talk about being in safe environments as we're going through things in life and learning from our experiences. So he learned to swim. So I did it from a place of not having knowledge of swimming, didn't teach him out of fear or out of what I was taught about water. I made a choice that in this generation, certain things won't go forward, and certain things, some of those things were fear of things that we shouldn't be fearful of. Of course, now I would tell them stay away from snakes and bears and lions and tigers and those kind of things. That's normal to have those types of fears. We should have those fears, but then there are some fears that we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have fear of being our best version of ourselves. And if we aren't careful and we receive wisdom from people who fail to be their best version of themselves, then they will teach us to be fearful of being the self that we were created to be. So again, I went back to answering question 2 as I was supposed to be going through that checklist. But then there was question number 3, which I do also believe I've answered. It is actually, I haven't yet. Are you qualified to give wise counsel yourself? And then question number 4 is how to implement the wise counsel that you receive. So are you qualified to give good counsel? Well, as I stated to you before, I am a counselor, a board certified biblical counselor, and a mental health coach. But again, these 8 letters, as I mentioned before, BCBC and CHMC, those are just things that, yes, they appear behind my name, but I don't when I walk in a room, I don't make people address me in that way, because those are just the things I had to get in order to qualify me to get into the rooms, to go into elementary schools and speak to children about self-esteem, and about even my experience at 12 years old of wanting to commit suicide. And I can speak to them from those things that were experiences, and from places that were actual gifts that I believe God placed on the inside of me. So that doesn't qualify me to give good counsel. That gave me a title, but it didn't qualify me. What qualified me was my search for wisdom, period. As a young girl, I heard the story of Samuel in the Bible. Was it Samuel? Yes, I often say Samson instead of Samuel, but his Solomon, thank you, all the S's. It's Solomon, who was David's son. And the Bible talks about how he was the wisest man that lived, and would be the wisest man that would live ever. And at first, when I heard that, I thought, well, that's not fair. But then I realized that I can ask God to give me wisdom. And so it's never been about, for me, wanting wisdom was about so I can say I'm smarter than someone else. I just always want to live my best life, right? And we do that through acquiring wisdom. How do we acquire that wisdom? What qualifies us to share it, and that makes our wisdom good counsel? Well, again, as I stated before, I believe in God. I believe in the Holy Spirit, and I seek the Holy Spirit's guidance in everything that I do. I believe that it allows me to give good counsel. I believe that it is one of the things that I was called to do, that I was put in this earth to do, was to give wise counsel to others, to encourage others and to build them up, to also help them to discover who they truly are. And I think that came about. I didn't realize as a young girl, when I was asking God to give me wisdom, that it was going to come with experiences, some that I would have preferred to leave on the shelf and let someone else take, or let that be something that fell on someone else because it was hard in the midst of those situations. But the wisdom that I've acquired from those situations that were, at the time, I would have told you that were horrible. They still were, but now I don't see them so much as being horrible, because I've gained so much knowledge and wisdom from them. So I can teach other women that I'm life coaching and say, hey, this is what I experienced in this situation. Here's some tips that I can give you that I learned through the hard times of this, whether it was a divorce or abusive relationship, or whether it was just a business venture, a business I started and it didn't work well, what I learned from that. So experiences definitely help qualify you as a wise counselor. We have to remember to not allow the maybe negative things that are caused or that come up in experiences to become the place that we hold on to, like bitterness or unforgiveness, or just a poverty mindset, or any of those things. We can't allow those negative things to be the place we draw from, the only thing that we've seen in the experiences of life. Because if we only draw from the negative, then we are not giving wise counsel to others. We may not even be giving wise counsel to ourselves, as we have to decipher between which things that come to our mind that we actually entertain as truth and that we choose to follow in life. So qualifying yourself as a wise counselor, I would say pray about it. If someone asks you something, if they come to you, pray about it. If you don't pray, again, you can look at it from a logical standpoint, if that is what you choose, and say, hey, always decide that I'm going to tell them something that's going to help improve them. I get great joy. I always have since I was a young girl, in helping people just be happy, helping them just find joy, helping them to feel loved. Like, I love hugs. Like, I give hugs, and I feel like I've been actually told several times that people feel like God himself is hugging them when I hug them. I just believe in loving people, helping them to just feel good about themselves, and help them find out who they really are, and to be the most authentic version of themselves in whatever season they're in. It may not always be pretty. Like, your authentic version of you may not always be pretty. When I was going through my divorce, there were parts of Vivian that was not pretty at all. There was a Vivian in a season that all I knew was that I needed to keep moving forward. I had lost, we were getting divorced. We were already separating. And then he went to prison. And so I was a single mom. I lost our place to live, all of our cars. lost everything, right? And so there was a version of Vivian that didn't deal with that. She just knew that she had 2 young children and that she needed to move forward, right? And so I became that version of Vivian that just moved forward. So I had to look back at my life and say, hey, this isn't healthy. Even though I didn't do it bitterly, I didn't tell my children to hate their father because, again, I made a decision as a young girl that certain things would not be repeated in our generation. Certain things would not be repeated in our bloodline. So I made a decision to move forward, but I needed to realize that it was okay in that season. The authentic me would have been to accept that I was hurt, that I was broken. I did eventually, but just not in that moment. I didn't. I just grabbed every amount of strength that I thought that God had put on the inside of me, that I believed he did, and I moved forward. So I needed to know that it was okay to be the authentic Vivian, who at that moment was hurt, who was heartbroken, who was scared and afraid because I had lost everything. I even had family members that turned on me because I was divorcing him. Like, I had all of these things. I had the pressures of the fact that he was our then pastor's son. And so then there's that, right? So now everyone from this community of religious people were looking at me as if, hey, you really destroyed this whole thing, right? So I had all those pressures, but I didn't know that it was okay to be broken Vivian, hurt Vivian, scared Vivian. And so later on, I was able to look back and say, hey, you've got to address this. You've got to look at this. You've got to look at how this has affected you. So we need to learn to be our most authentic version of ourselves. And if in this season of your life, you find that you have a difficulty hearing or accepting wise counsel because of the version of you that you are right now, because you are hurt and broken and you feel damaged and destroyed beyond repair, know that this is not your final season. For every moment that you wake up and you have breath in your body, you have the opportunity. There are new mercies. There are new opportunities. There are new doors opening for you, even if you can't see them yet, or it looks like that door is just barely cracked open. If you see the light, that's your hope. That's where you need to focus. But know that it is really okay to be your most authentic self in this season. And then make a decision that you'll open your heart to accept wise counsel, so that when that counsel comes, even if it hurts, even if it isn't what you want it to be, because sometimes we think that our friends are only the people who actually tell us everything that we want to hear or that makes us feel good. Well, honey, sometimes wise counsel is not going to make you feel good. It is going to make you feel like crap. There's a verse in the Bible that says, you will know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And my now adult daughter says, but yeah, it first might piss you off. And she's right. Sometimes the truth is going to piss us off. Sometimes wise counsel is going to piss us off. It's going to make us mad. It's going to upset us. It's going to make us uncomfortable because it's really calling us to be the best version of ourselves in the season that we're getting this wise counsel. And so if we're willing to commit to become the best version of ourselves and to accept that wise counsel, then it's going to help us grow. It's going to help us get to that place that we're always meant to get to on the inside of us and even in life. And so when we are the best authentic versions of ourselves, we can walk out our dreams and visions. We can see miracles be performed in our lives. We can see our children and other generations being affected by the changes we're making. Because what if that thing in this season that you think is so horrible, right? And it can be, it probably is. Losing a loved one sucks. Having your business closed down sucks. Getting a divorce, all these things suck. But what if in this season of your life, when this really sucky thing has happened, you make a decision to become the best version of yourself, right? And someone who you don't even know is watching you, listening to you, seeing you from a distance, right? Sees you pick yourself up, sees you, follow Holy Spirit's leading and implement certain things in your life, or even accept wise counsel and implement certain things in your life, and you change and you shift and you become more responsible, you become more respectful, you become more humble, you actually go after your dream and you fight for it and you sacrifice to make it happen. What if someone watching you sees this and that's all that they needed to push them to move forward to their next thing? Then would you consider that the thing that you're going through was actually a blessing, not only to you, but to the person who also is now getting wise counsel just from seeing you get up and do something different. So on to the fourth question, right? The fourth question was how to implement the wise counsel that you receive. First, you have to decide that you want whatever it is you say you are pursuing. Because see, it's really easy for us to say that we're pursuing something, right? So I'm also an author, and I have a couple books, and I probably have more books that are unfinished than that are finished, but I'm working on that. I'm actually in the process of wrapping up some writings. But I can say I'm working on a book, right? I can say, man, I've got like 6 books in the works. But if I've not touched those books, if I've not we had them edited and sent those chapters out to be reviewed, I'm not really working on that book. So I can say that I want my next 6 books to come out by the end of the year, and I want to finish them. And I can say that I want my coloring book line to be, on Amazon by the end of the summer. But if I'm not touching them or doing something with them, my words are simply words that are falling to the ground. So make a decision that you actually want what you're saying that you are pursuing, right? So start there. Then choose to step over any fear of self that may arise in the process. So I know many of you may have heard of the imposter syndrome, right? So often we have a fear of being our best version of ourselves. And some of us have even self-sabotaged projects, opportunities, because we have a fear of being successful, right? We have to choose in this season, if we're really wanting change and we really want to be wise in whatever it is we're doing, we have to, again, decide that we really want what we're saying we want to pursue. And then we need to choose to step over any fear of self that may arise in the process, because it's going to show up. Like, it's literally going to show up. There will always be some reason why you shouldn't be the best version of yourself, or that you shouldn't start that business, or that you shouldn't start that ministry, or that you shouldn't do whatever it is you know in your heart you should do, right? It's going to always be there. But once you made up in your mind, like sincerely committed it to it mentally, it's going to be hard for you to give that up. So decide you want it, choose to step over any fear, and then accept what counsel you have determined to be wise counsel and decide how you're going to implement it. For me, that usually looks like writing it down. I'll start usually, as I said to you guys, I believe in God. I get up, I'll have my morning time, or there are times where I will steal away into a private place and just say, Lord, hey, what is it that you're wanting me to do with this? Like, you've given me this vision, this dream. So give me a strategy. Show me how to work this thing out, right? And so during that time, he will download things in my spirit and I will write those things out. And sometimes it's just specific steps. Sometimes it's the bullet points first, but you've got to write it down. You've got to write down, again, even the wise counsel that you've received, and allow that to be a part of your planning, right? And so you write these things down, and then you write down individual steps on how to implement each individual thing. I know that seems like a lot of writing, but guess what? Isn't your dream, your vision, that thing that's been in your heart for years and decades worth the time to sit and plan it out? To sit and say, here is the plan to actually make this become a reality. That's wise. That's wisdom at work, implementing it. So do that. And then I would suggest that you also journal. Journal each step that you take. So whatever your first step is, okay, write the date and time. I'm journaling that today. This is the process I'm starting. And whether that process takes days or weeks or months, at some point, whether it's a daily entry or a weekly entry, journal the process. And then the thing that I think is really, really important about journaling is going back and reviewing what you've written down. Because sometimes when we're in the process of walking things out, we may not be able to really see our own progress because we're in the midst of walking it out, right? So we have to take time in there to pause and actually review where we are, because that helps. That brings me motivation, because at times I will go back and I will read over some things in the process and I realize, hey, I am doing really well. Hey, I did achieve this. This is something that's really great. I am making more progress than I think. And then that gives me more self-motivation to stay the course and to keep walking that out. So again, today's talk was entitled The Sound of Wisdom. And we talked about what does wisdom actually look like? I'm sorry, what does wisdom actually sound like? How do you know when you are receiving wise counsel from friends or peers? Are you qualified to give wise counsel, and how to implement the wise counsel received? Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed my first talk here. As I stated, I'll be back here every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please feel free to click the button and ask to join as a guest or to ask questions. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here next week. God bless.